In the heart of a sleepy, snow-draped town, perched on a solitary hill, lay the prestigious yet enigmatic Hawthorne boarding school. Its majestic structure, with spires piercing the frosty sky and ivy-clad walls, stood as a testament to centuries of academic excellence and tradition. Yet, beneath its esteemed facade, the school harbored whispers of a darker narrative, one that the town below murmured about during hushed winter nights, but never dared to acknowledge in the light of day. The school's history was as rich as it was tumultuous, with tales of triumphs overshadowed by rumors of tragedy. Locals spoke of unexplained disappearances, of shadows that moved against the logic of light, and of an unsettling quiet that seemed to descend upon the school with the first snowfall of each winter. These tales were often dismissed as folklore, mere ghost stories to keep curious townsfolk at bay. As winter approached, the school, usually buzzing with the vibrant energy of youth, transformed into a silent, almost sentient entity. Students, eager to escape the confines of discipline and academia, departed for their homes, leaving the school to its solitude. However, this winter was different. It held the school in a tighter grip, and within its hallowed halls, two figures remained: Kat and Rose. Kat was the embodiment of defiance, with her sharp wit and a gaze that challenged every boundary. Her spirit was as untamed as the winter wind, and her thirst for adventure often led her down paths less trodden. In stark contrast, Rose was a tapestry of thoughts and dreams, often lost within the pages of a book or the silent musings of her mind. Her demeanor was calm, her movements deliberate, and her presence a soothing balm to Kat's fiery temperament. Together, they were an unlikely pairing, bound by circumstance rather than choice. As the school settled into its winter slumber, the silence became their constant companion, broken only by the creaks and groans of the old building adjusting to the cold. Unbeknownst to them, the eerie quiet of the deserted school was not a sign of peace, but the calm before a storm, a prelude to the chilling events that were about to unfold. For within the walls of Hawthorne boarding school, secrets lay buried beneath a veneer of tradition, and excellent secrets that the frost was about to whisper to those who dared to listen. As the first snowflakes began to fall, blanketing the world in white, the stage was set for a tale of intrigue and horror, a tale that would soon ensnare Kat and Rose in its icy grip, leading them into the very heart of the school's darkest whispers. This was the winter Hawthorne boarding school would never forget, for it was the winter the frost itself would speak, and its whispers were not meant for the faint of heart. As the last of the students waved goodbye, their laughter fading into the distance, Hawthorne boarding school settled into an unsettling quiet. The grand corridors, once alive with the echoes of youthful exuberance, now lay barren, their stillness almost suffocating. The winter break had cast a spell over the school, transforming it into a frozen relic of its former self. Kat and Rose found themselves stranded, a circumstance of distant parents and cancelled flights. The vastness of the school, a place they thought they knew, now seemed foreign, as if the absence of their peers had unveiled a hidden facet of its character. The staff, reduced to a skeleton crew, moved like shadows through the halls, their presence more of a reminder of the isolation than a comfort. To fend off the creeping sense of solitude, the girls sought refuge in each other's company. They spent their days exploring the nooks and crannies of the school, places they had never bothered to venture into during the bustling school days. The library, with its towering shelves and the scent of old books, became a sanctuary, the silence a stark contrast to the usual hum of whispered conversations and turning pages. But as the days waned, the peculiarities began. It started subtly: a misplaced book, a door ajar that had been shut, footsteps in the corridor with no discernible source. The girls, amused at first, joked about the school having its own life, jesting that perhaps it wasn't used to being so empty. However, the amusement faded as the occurrences grew more frequent, more bold. Whispers in the dead of night, when the world outside was silent, muffled as if just behind the walls. Shadows that flickered at the edge of vision, gone when gazed upon directly. The air grew heavy, charged with an unspoken anticipation, as if the school itself was holding its breath. Kat, ever the skeptic, insisted there must be logical explanations. Drafts could make doors move, the old heating system could be the source of the noises, and the human mind was adept at playing tricks when fear set in. Rose, though not as quick to dismiss the events, couldn't shake the feeling that the explanations were too convenient, that they were missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. The turning point came one evening, as the girls sat huddled in the common room, a small oasis of warmth in the cold expanses of the school. A sudden, chilling draft swept through the room, extinguishing the fire and plunging them into darkness. The silence that followed was oppressive, tangible. It was then that they heard it, a soft, almost inaudible sobbing, echoing through the halls, a sound both forlorn and hauntingly familiar. Frozen in place, Kat and Rose exchanged a look of mutual fear. This was no trick of the mind or quirk of the old building. This was something else, something beyond their understanding. As the sobbing faded, a resolve settled between them. They needed answers, and the only way to find them was to delve deeper into the mysteries of Hawthorne Boarding School. Little did they know, the path they were about to tread would lead them into the very heart of the darkness that lurked within the school's walls, a darkness that had been waiting, patiently, for someone to uncover its whispers in the frost. The unsettling occurrences within the walls of Hawthorne Boarding School began to escalate, weaving a tightening web of fear around Kat and Rose. The initial curiosity that had driven their exploration of the school's hidden corners was now replaced by a palpable sense of dread. The building's eerie stillness seemed to weigh heavily upon them, as if it were a living entity, observing their every move with unseen eyes. Each night became a test of courage. The girls would lie awake, listening to the strange symphony of the night, a chorus of whispers, the occasional inexplicable thud, and the ever-present feeling of being watched. The sobbing they had heard was not a one-time occurrence, it returned, sporadic and heart-wrenching, a mournful lament that seemed to seep through the very walls. One day, while wandering the desolate hallways in an attempt to map the source of the disturbances, Kat and Rose encountered the old janitor, Mr. Higgins. A stoic figure who had been part of the school for as long as anyone could remember, Mr. Higgins was known for his sparse words and stern demeanor. However, when he saw the look of genuine fear in the girl's eyes, his expression softened. In a rare moment of candor, Mr. Higgins warned them about the dangers of prying into the school's secrets. He spoke cryptically of certain areas that were best left undisturbed and alluded to past events that had cast a long shadow over the school. His words were a mixture of caution and sorrow, and though he stopped short of revealing the nature of the darkness that lingered in the school, his message was clear. Some truths were not meant to be uncovered. Driven by a mix of defiance and desperation, Kat and Rose decided to delve into the history of the school. They spent hours in the library, poring over old yearbooks, newspaper clippings, and dusty volumes of local history. The more they read, the more they began to piece together a tapestry of tragedy and mystery that had long been buried. Their research led them to a series of troubling revelations about a student who had vanished decades ago. The case had been hastily closed, attributed to a tragic accident, but the stories they found hinted at something far more sinister. The student's disappearance had occurred during the winter break, under circumstances eerily similar to their own current situation. As the days grew shorter and the nights longer, Rose began to experience vivid, unsettling dreams. These were not ordinary nightmares, they were visceral and disturbingly coherent, as if she were living through someone else's memories. She dreamt of hidden rooms, of whispered secrets, and of a shadowy figure whose presence filled her with an indescribable dread. In one of her dreams, she saw a door that she recognized from one of the school's abandoned wings. It was a place they had been warned to avoid, but now it beckoned them with the promise of answers. With trepidation and a grim determination, Kat and Rose decided to confront their fears. They set out to find the door from Rose's dreams, unaware that their actions would unravel the threads of a long-buried past, bringing them face to face with the dark heart of Hawthorne Boarding School. The school's quiet halls were now a labyrinth of secrets and shadows, each corner whispering of the unseen presence that haunted them. As they moved closer to the truth, the boundary between the known and the unknown began to blur, and the realization dawned upon them that the school's whispers were not just echoes of the past, but warnings of a chilling reality that was all too present. With the weight of Mr. Higgins' veiled warnings pressing on their minds, Kat and Rose embarked on a journey into the heart of the school's darkest wing. The air was thick with a palpable sense of history, every step forward a descent into the unknown. The door from Rose's dreams loomed before them, old and unassuming, yet it held an aura of foreboding, as if it were a gateway to the secrets that lay dormant within the school's walls. With a mixture of fear and resolve, they pushed the door open. The room beyond was shrouded in darkness, untouched by time. The air was heavy, laden with the scent of old wood and something faintly metallic. As their eyes adjusted, the girls noticed strange markings on the walls, symbols that seemed to whisper of ancient rites and forgotten lore. Amidst the relics of the past, they discovered a collection of personal belongings, a diary, photographs, and a series of letters, all tied to the student who had vanished years ago. The diary was a window into a troubled soul, pages filled with expressions of fear, confusion, and a desperate search for truth. It spoke of strange occurrences, of feeling watched, and of a presence that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. The letters, exchanged between the missing student and a mysterious correspondent, hinted at a forbidden relationship, one that had drawn the ire of the school's authorities. It became clear that the student's disappearance was not a simple case of misfortune, but a tapestry of love, jealousy, and a struggle against the oppressive rules of the institution. As Kat and Rose delved deeper into the diary's entries, they stumbled upon a revelation that sent shivers down their spine. The student had uncovered a hidden facet of the school's history, a dark legacy that had been carefully concealed. It spoke of a secret society, one that had operated within the school's walls, dabbling in practices that were better left unspoken. The realization that they were not merely dealing with the echoes of a tragic past, but a lingering, malevolent force was a turning point. The occurrences they had experienced were not random, they were messages, a call from the shadows that beckoned them to uncover the truth. Rose's dreams, once dismissed as mere nightmares, took on a new significance. They were not the imaginings of a troubled mind, but a link to the past, a bridge between the living and the forgotten. The sobbing they had heard, the unseen force that seemed to stalk them, were all pieces of a puzzle that was slowly coming together. Determined to bring the truth to light, Kat and Rose decided to confront the entity that haunted the school. Armed with the knowledge from the diary and driven by a desire to put an end to the cycle of fear, they prepared to face the unseen presence. Little did they know, their actions would not only unearth the dark secrets of Hawthorne Boarding School, but also reveal the true nature of the force that had been watching them all along. As they made their way through the silent corridors, the school seemed to hold its breath. The whispers in the frost grew louder, a chorus of voices from the past and present, all converging on the moment of revelation. The truth was close, hidden within the shadows, waiting for the final curtain to be drawn. The air grew colder as Kat and Rose ventured deeper into the heart of Hawthorne Boarding School's mysteries. Each step felt like a descent not just into the physical depths of the school, but into the very depths of their fears. The once familiar hallways twisted into unfamiliar patterns, as if reshaping themselves to hide the dark truths that lay buried within. The girls' determination was soon met with resistance, not just from the oppressive atmosphere of the school, but from a force that seemed to actively push back against their pursuit of the truth. Objects moved of their own accord, doors slammed shut, trapping them inside rooms, and chilling drafts followed them, as if the school itself was breathing down their necks. In a particularly harrowing encounter, an unseen force physically manifested itself. Kat felt a sudden grip around her ankle, pulling her down as she and Rose navigated a narrow staircase. With a desperate struggle, she managed to free herself, but the message was clear: they were not merely observers of these strange events, they were part of a sinister narrative that was unfolding around them. Isolated and cut off from the outside world by a fierce snowstorm, the sense of desperation grew. The realization that they were truly alone, that their cries for help would go unheard, settled upon them with a weight heavier than the winter snow on the school's rooftops. It was in this isolation that the true nature of the entity began to reveal itself. Through the pages of the old diary and the fragmented remnants of the past they had uncovered, Kat and Rose realized that the entity was not just a lingering presence, but a manifestation of the school's darkest chapter, a chapter written in betrayal, loss, and a thirst for vengeance. The missing student, whose life and love had been cut short by the cruel machinations of the secret society, had left more than just diary entries and letters. They had left a part of themselves, an imprint of their soul, etched into the very fabric of the school. As the entity's actions grew more bold and menacing, the girls discovered the final piece of the puzzle: the identity of the old janitor, Mr. Higgins. He was not just a custodian of the school's facilities, but a guardian of its secrets. His stern demeanor and cryptic warnings were born of a deep-seated guilt and a desperate attempt to keep the past buried. Mr. Higgins was once a member of the secret society, a participant in the events that led to the student's disappearance. Over the years, he had watched the school, ensuring that the dark legacy he was part of remained hidden. But with Kat and Rose's arrival and their subsequent probing into the school's past, he realized that the truth was fighting its way to the surface, and with it, the entity that sought to balance the scales of justice. The revelation of Mr. Higgins' true identity and his connection to the tragedy set the stage for a final chilling confrontation. The school, a silent witness to decades of secrets, seemed to tense in anticipation. The whispers in the frost grew louder, as if the voices of the past were gathering to witness the reckoning that was to come. Kat and Rose, armed with the truth and resolve forged in fear and courage, prepared to face the entity. They understood now that their role was not just to uncover the dark history of Hawthorne Boarding School, but to offer a voice to the voiceless, to acknowledge the pain and suffering that had been ignored for so long. As they moved towards the heart of the school, where the presence was strongest, the air grew colder, the shadows deeper, and the whispers in the frost reached a crescendo. They were about to come face to face with the entity, to confront the dark heart of the school, and in doing so, they would either break the cycle of sorrow and silence or become its latest victims. The corridors of Hawthorne boarding school seemed to close in on Kat and Rose as they made their way to the heart of the entity's presence. The air was thick with anticipation, and the temperature dropped with each step they took, their breaths visible in the frosty air. The whispers in the frost had now become a palpable chorus, an eerie symphony of voices from the past that seemed to guide them forward. As they reached the school's oldest wing, the epicenter of the supernatural disturbances, the atmosphere shifted. The oppressive sense of dread that had accompanied them gave way to a profound sadness, a melancholy so deep it was almost tangible. It was here, in the heart of the darkness, that they finally understood the true nature of the entity. It was not a force of malevolence, but of immense sorrow, a soul trapped in perpetual anguish, crying out for acknowledgement and release. The room where the confrontation took place was shrouded in shadows, the only light coming from the moon, casting a pale glow through the frost-covered windows. The air was thick with the echoes of the past, each whisper a fragment of the story that had led to this moment. Kat and Rose, standing amidst the remnants of forgotten tragedies, felt the weight of the unseen gaze upon them. They knew that this was the time for truths to be spoken, for the cycle of silence to be broken. With a voice stronger than fear, Kat began to recount a story they had pieced together, the story of love, betrayal, and the cruel twist of fate that had bound the entity to the school. As the truth was spoken, the atmosphere in the room began to change. The oppressive weight lifted, and the temperature slowly rose. The entity, its story finally acknowledged, began to manifest before them, not as a force of terror, but as a specter of the student who had suffered so much and had been denied peace. The confrontation was not a battle, but a release. Mr. Higgins, appearing at the threshold, watched with a mixture of sorrow and relief as the girls offered the entity what he had failed to provide: recognition and a chance for redemption. With tears that mirrored those of the apparition before them, Kat and Rose bore witness to the final moments of the entity's earthly tether. A soft light filled the room, and the specter, with a final glance that spoke of gratitude and release, faded into the ether. The aftermath of that night was a silence deeper than any the school had ever known. The dark secret of Hawthorne boarding school had been exposed, but at a great cost. The truth of what had occurred was buried, deemed too fantastical to be believed. The school's reputation was preserved, its dark history once again cloaked in the guise of rumor and speculation. Kat and Rose, forever changed by the events of that winter, left the school as soon as the roads cleared. They spoke little of what had transpired, understanding that some truths were too heavy for the world to bear. But the bond between them was unbreakable, forged in the heart of darkness and sealed by the whispers in the frost. As the school reopened and life returned to its halls, a new silence settled over Hawthorne boarding school. It was a silence of peace, a testament to the suffering that had been acknowledged and the soul that had been set free. But the whispers in the frost lingered, a soft murmuring beneath the surface, a reminder that the past, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way to speak. And so, the story of Kat, Rose, and the entity they freed became another thread in the tapestry of the school's history, a whisper in the frost that would echo through the corridors for generations to come. As the seasons turned and the snows melted into the soft gloom of spring, Hawthorne boarding school reclaimed its stature as a beacon of learning and tradition. The laughter of students once again filled its halls, and the memories of the winter past were buried beneath the busy tapestry of academic life. Yet, beneath the surface of normalcy, a subtle change lingered in the air. The school, for all its efforts to cloak its dark past, could not fully erase the events that had transpired. Whispers of the strange occurrences during the winter break circulated among the students, each retelling adding a layer of myth to the already enigmatic reputation of the school. Kat and Rose, having left the school, moved forward with their lives, but the bond forged in the crucible of their shared experience remained. They were no longer just former classmates, they were keepers of a profound secret, guardians of a truth too heavy for the world to bear. Their encounters at Hawthorne boarding school became a silent pact, a mutual understanding that some stories were meant to be carried in the heart rather than spoken aloud. Back at the school, Mr. Higgins continued his duties, his demeanor more somber, his gaze often lingering on the corners of the school where shadows played. In the quiet moments, when the school lay hushed under the blanket of night, he would sometimes pause and listen, as if searching for a sign that the peace that now reigned was real, that the whispers in the frost had truly been silenced. But the school, with its ancient walls and storied history, held its secrets close. The entity, now released from its earthly bonds, had left an indelible mark on the fabric of the place. In the stillness of the winter nights, when the frost once again claimed the landscape, a faint echo of the past could be felt, a gentle reminder of the cycle of history and the enduring power of truth. For the whispers in the frost were more than just echoes of a troubled past, they were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the courage of two young souls who dared to face the darkness, and in doing so, brought light to the shadows. And as long as the school stood, as long as the frost painted its delicate patterns on the windows, the whispers would endure, a quiet melody beneath the bustle of life, a hushed lullaby of remembrance and respect for the mysteries that lay just beyond the veil of the seen and known. In the heart of the town, beneath the watchful gaze of Hawthorne boarding school, life moved on. But for those who listened closely, the whispers in the frost were there, a soft murmuring in the quiet moments, a gentle reminder that within every ending lies the seed of a new beginning, and in every silence, a story waiting to be told.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the video. We highly recommend you watch the next video here. Oops. I'm waiting for you to click. Yes, you've clicked. Happy watching.